Hey beautiful souls, welcome to the In My Healing Bag podcast, the space where we come together to heal, grow, and transform. I'm Ashley Good, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend a little time with me today. If you're new here, I'm a medicine woman and death doula who is passionate about guiding women through change, transformation, especially Black and Indigenous women on their journey to wholeness. This podcast is my way of sharing the tools, stories, and wisdom I gathered along the way of my healing journey. And my hope is that it resonates with you wherever you are in your journey. So whether you're listening while driving, journaling, or just relaxing with a cup of tea, I invite you to take a deep breath, settle in, and join me as we explore this together. Hey guys, welcome back to the In My Healing Bag podcast. If you are on YouTube, we are trying a new format of watching in video to give you guys the options to either listen on Spotify or to see me in person on video. I like this because it allows me to give y'all, connect with y'all face to face, and I love that, right? So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys have listened to our previous episode 2. We talked about connecting with your ancestors as a part of part 1 of the Ancestral Healing series, just to go over the foundation of ancestral healing, because this is the bones and the meat and the potatoes of the In My Healing Bag podcast, because this is how I got into the work. And I want to teach y'all how to get into the work yourself as Afro-Indigenous or African or Black people, however you identify within the diaspora. I think it's important that we tap into that ancestral wisdom and get access to that medicine. So if you haven't listened to the first episode, definitely go back before you listen to this one. The first one we talked about, like I said, more about ancestral healing through connecting with your ancestors, and this is the second part of the series where we're going to get more in depth as to how you can activate ancestral healing within your bloodline via working with your ancestors. So without further ado, let's kind of settle into our seats. I like to take a good deep breath before we receive the information to make sure that we are open and ready to receive whatever it is that our ancestors, God, whatever divinity that you're connected to has for us. So I want you to get comfortable in a comfortable seat. If you're driving, stop your car. If not, fast forward. Of course, as always, we want to practice safety. Other than that, please relax in your seat or lay down, lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable for you. You can close your eyes, and we'll just begin by beginning to feel the sensation within our body and just paying attention to the rise and fall of our chest, bringing our awareness to our breath. And any thoughts that may arise, just allow them to pass by like clouds. Not talking back to them or entertaining them. And now we'll just begin with a deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through your mouth. And we'll do that 2 more times, breathing in through your nose, breathing in new life, abundance, new opportunities, and releasing out of the mouth, releasing anything that you no longer wish to hold on to or that no longer serves you. And one last time, breathing in new life, and this time we'll sigh it out, letting go and remaining present within this moment. And you can come back to your natural breath. You can come back into your body by wiggling your fingers or toes, bringing awareness to the space around you. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. I don't know about y'all, but ain't nothing like a system reboot, a nervous reset, a nervous system reboot, to come to a space that is going to be open for you to receive messages and just get the tea on, just spiritual tea, right? What's in my healing bag. All right, so like I mentioned before, last episode we talked about connecting with our ancestors. We talked about how I got into my journey of working with my ancestors, how you can start building your family tree, learning how to use your gifts to connect to them, and building your altar. this episode, we're going to continue segueing into how to activate ancestral healing within your bloodline. So being that if you are new to this experience, I would suggest taking your time. Especially when you're building that relationship with your ancestors, from the family tree to learning your gifts and building that altar, this is a gradual journey. I'm giving you the steps so you have it at your will to use, but please take your time. This is not something to rush through. It's a journey, and this is a lifelong journey. So as I'm talking to you about the information that I'm sharing, I'm learning new things on my own life. So there's never no complete thing, and I'm taking my time. So I'm giving you these steps, not to do them step by step, not by doing all the steps in week 1 from the last episode, or all these steps in week 2. These are things that you have the wisdom for, so you can pay attention to your own journey. So when I'm giving you this information, especially as people that are new, if you are new to ancestor work, I'm not expecting you to jump into working with them immediately, especially if you're getting to know your bloodline through ancestor, building your ancestry tree. So I just want to do the disclaimer. It's like I said, I don't want y'all to be in my inbox like, Ash, I'm overwhelmed, this is too much effort. No, take it in chunks, use it how you wish, and do your journey by taking your time. So I want to talk more with y'all about like ways to connect with your ancestors. And if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So there's multiple ways that you can connect with your ancestors. Like we mentioned before, it's through your clairs, whether you're clairaudient and you can hear, clairvoyant, you can see, clairsentient, like using your divine 5 senses in order to hear from them. Now we're going to talk about taking it a step further. So our ancestors communicate with us in different ways. You can also communicate with them while you're asleep through dreaming. They'll show up to you. They may show up to you in your dreams. They may give you signs. It could be through meditation, which is my favorite. Y'all know my ancestor meditations hit hard, and I love them. Just actually getting that intentional time with them. You can also use divination tools, and then when you get to the point of building your ancestor altar, that is also another way that you can build and strengthen your connection. So when I talk about dreams, if you are a dreamer, especially if it happens often, I know for me, I'm dreaming every single night, you need to start paying attention to your dreams and writing them down as soon as you wake up, because there will be a lot of messages in there. If you aren't a dreamer, I would suggest practicing meditation, visual meditation, to strengthen that muscle, so that way you can get to that point where you're able to bring awareness to your dreams. And so for the meditations, you can literally just set the intention going in that you desire to connect with your elevated ancestor, or if you have a specific person that you know is the elevated ancestor that you want to connect to, and just allow yourself to sit and visualize that they're in front of you and just welcome them into your space. If you're a dreamer, like I said, you can set the intention before you go to sleep that you want to connect with that person, or that you're open to receiving messages, and just take note of what you see and what the messages may be. Next are divination tools. I love a divination tool. This is actually how I started communicating with my ancestors, with the intention of hearing from them. You can use, I started using oracle cards, and they were like these little messages cards, like just with the affirmations, and that's how I started. And they would give me these messages, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean? So it's real tea, especially when you get into the tarot cards. They're gonna read your ass to filth. And so you can use any modality that you feel called to. Me personally, I started off with oracle cards. I use tarot cards. I also love the pendulum. If you're new to divination, I would recommend looking into using a pendulum, because it's pretty simple, cut and dry. They're good for yes and no questions. So you program the pendulum to give you the answer, and if you're asking not open-ended questions, yes or no questions, you're gonna get your answer pretty clear. And I say, like, you gotta be ready to hear the truth, because when you're trying to receive messages from tarot or oracle, there's room for interpretation. But when you get in that pendulum, it's either a yes or a no, and there's no way around it. So divination tools, there's a plethora of them that you can access, that you can use if you want to throw bones, if you want to use cowrie shells, if you want to do automatic writing. There's just so many available tools out there. So just do your research, find which one connects to you. You can even ask your ancestors to guide you to whatever tool is necessary. And the next one is altars. Your altars is your sacred space for your ancestors. That as well is the easiest way to access your ancestors. If you spend time there frequently, if you sit at your altar and pray, if you talk to them, that is a way to connect with them, right? Or to build that relationship and strengthen it, because just like we strengthen our relationships with those on earth, you also have to strengthen your relationship with those in spirit. And so that's how I started. Was my altar maintenance routine was how I connected to my ancestors, whether it was changing the water, wiping it down, providing offerings through candy or food. And when you get into offerings, you can really start building a very personal connection. Like, for example, if you have a grandmother that liked apple pie and you decided to cook that apple pie for her, you can set the intention of building that connection. And I love it because it allows us to, a lot of the people that maybe on the other side that you had an experience with on earth, it strengthens that relationship and creates like a tangible experience. So I know for me, like, I'm not a cooker, I'm not a baker, I'm learning to bake, but I learned that when I work with my ancestors, as far as wanting to cook, it turns out really good. So just asking my ancestors to assist me in cooking, calling all the grandmas and aunties that know could cook. I specifically had an ancestor, she wanted some pound cake, and so I made it for her, and that shit was good. And I was like, what? So it's just understanding, like, that altar for me, I would say it's the first space I would go to connect with my ancestors on a deeper level, because you get to have that tangible physical experience with them and build connection. Going into altar maintenance, because I think it's important, yes, to connect with them and spend that time and give their offerings, but we also have to upkeep the maintenance of the altar, right? You don't want it to be dusty and dirty. Just like you would upkeep your own home, you need to do that to the altar. Come up with some type of routine to change your water, to anoint it through oils or Florida water, whatever you choose. And also, please don't keep the offerings there for months and months on end. Yes, they will get moldy. Yes, they may attract flies, whatever the case may be, but you need to upkeep it. If you would not eat that food yourself or drink that water, don't treat your ancestors that way. And this is a whole nother episode that we'll have to do, getting more in depth to altar maintenance, because I could literally sit here and talk about it forever, because there's so much information, from divining candles, divining food, because when it comes to offering, they also utilize that as an energy source to help you in the spiritual realm, and you can use it as a way to read it and learn about like what they may be saying to you about your healing journey, which may intentionally be a separate episode. So if y'all have any questions on that, please submit some questions, because I'm gonna put together a specific episode about ancestor altars. That might be the next episode. I'm not gonna quote you on that, but we'll see how it goes when it comes to how this series is unfolding. Okay, so you're learning a way to deepen your connection with your ancestors through meditation, through dreams, through different divination tools, through your altar. So now we want to go a little bit more in depth into how to set the intention to work with them. So we're working with our ancestors, we're talking to them, but what are we actually doing, right? Like, we're building that connection, but how do we activate this sense of healing within ourselves? We're always healing, right? But I say activating it because you're accessing, you're building an intention, you're building a relationship with your ancestors with the intention to access that wisdom and to utilize the practices that they have left for us, so that way we can heal ourselves. So that's what I mean by activate. It's always within you, but accessing that knowledge is what activates the generational healing. And when you do that work, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing 7 generations back, and you're leaving space in healing 7 generations after you, right? Whether it's attached to you through your children or whatever the case may be, you're paving that way and opening that gate for them. And so that's why it's very important to do so. So the first thing, what did I put down here? The first thing you want to do is set your intention. Always set your intentions going in. Like I told you on the first episode, set the intention that you're connecting with your elevated ancestors, and this is where you get specific. For example, trying to think of what I could do. Let's just use cooking for example, right? I'm trying to be a better cook. My meals suck, or maybe I don't have the desire, and I want to work with my ancestors on cooking. Of course, this is just surface level, but you can get more specific as far as how deep the healing goes, whether you're dealing with healing trauma or healing with personal issues that you may have going on in the workplace or different things like that. But I'm gonna just use cooking as something general and surface level. So I'm gonna set the intention that I want to connect with my elevated ancestors to help me improve my cooking, And through doing that, you can vocalize it or you can write it down, similar to what we were saying before in the last episode. You can write it down as a petition and put it on your altar and burn a candle with the intention of them helping you better cooking with your meals. And as it transpired, allow yourself to open your mind and your heart to receive messages and to welcome them in before you cook a meal. So what I like to do is I like to call on those specific ancestors that I know used to throw down, whether it's great grandma, auntie, and them. Call on them to assist you with cooking as well before you start cooking your meal. And that strengthens that bond. And when we go into actually setting the intention, you want to set intentions because you just don't want to go and do anything. You get better results when you set the intention, because if I'm just going in like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you're not going to have great results. But when you are clear about what it is that you need assistance with, they can help you. They can't just read your mind. Ultimately, they connect with you through your mind, but you also want to be clear and concise on what it is that you need so they can assist you. So that way it strengthens communication. So with that, once you are doing that, you're setting that intention, you can also go into healing those deeper issues, those ancestor wounds. Maybe you're having issues with toxic relationships, and you know that there are relatives that maybe they had successful relationships, or maybe those that did have that toxic cycle. You can tap into that and see, what did they learn? Calling on maybe somebody specifically that you know been through the same issue that can give you some wisdom, or calling on your elevated ancestors to make clear for you the next steps that you should do. This is when that deep generational work starts. This is when you start doing that deep generational work, because you are healing a pattern or a behavior that more than likely was passed down, and you're tapping into those that may have struggled with it, that may have learned already, or those that may have even be successful at it to help you heal. And so by you making the decision to heal that part of yourself and to heal that part of your life, you are now making it known that you are the one that's going to carry this torch on moving forward. So as you work on that relationship, you're actually helping healing those before you that didn't get an opportunity to, and you're also showing a better example of how to handle situations and how to have healthy dynamics with your relationships, so that way those that may be around you right now or your children can exemplify healthy relationships, so that way it ripples moving forward. And so as you go on that journey, you'll see a lot of things unfold. You'll get a lot of messages, you'll get a lot of wisdom, and they'll lead you to different avenues. So I know for me personally, I have been dealing with healing from sexual abuse. And this has been dealing with a lot of things within my sacral and my womb space, and I've been working with my ancestors on that, and they have been leading me to a lot of ancestral practices that focus on the wound. And y'all know I recently went through a death doula training, but it was also a womb practitioner training where I learned ancestral practices to heal that part of myself. So they're teaching me new medicine, they're giving me new wisdom. I've been led to different spiritual systems and spiritual religions to get this information, and a lot of times this ain't shit that you're gonna find on your own. But when you ask your ancestors to provide you with help and assistance, they'll reveal things to you. So as you go on this journey, pay attention to the things that you're hearing, that you're seeing. Maybe it's a random ad on TikTok about a class that has more information on what you're dealing with, or maybe you're having a conversation with somebody who has the knowledge and wisdom and it gives it to you. So even if you're not receiving that wisdom through meditation or divination or through your spiritual gifts, sometimes it's in plain sight in front of you, and so you just have to be open to receive that. And that's what I love, because although they're not physically in the physical and on earth, they're always around you, giving you information at all times. Like, they're your team, they're gonna hold you down, so they're always going to give you something to help you get further along of your healing journey. And as you do that, the important thing as well is to build trust to strengthen that relationship. And I know for me, this is something that I am actively working on, because I know for me within my life, I have gone through situations where my trust has been broken and I have been betrayed. And so if I feel like I can't trust these certain relationships, how can I trust my ancestors? And we don't think about it that way a lot of times, because we think about, like, you know, at least for me, when I see in the spiritual community, when I have my spiritual awakening, we always talk about working with spirit, right? But people put it in a context as spirit is working for you. You tell them what you want and they do it. Absolutely not. I don't believe in that. I believe that when you honor and you venerate your ancestors, it's a mutual sense of respect. we are on the same level. If I was if I was talking to my auntie, grandma, cousin, I wouldn't be disrespectful to them. It would be a mutual sense of respect. So just like you do in person is how you do in spirit. They're not your minions. They're not, you're not their manager. They're not your employees. They're not doing work for you. They are working with you. Working with, not for. And how you do that is you build in that, you strengthen that relationship. So that comes through spending time with them, maintaining their altar, providing them with offerings, talking to them, building that connection. When you approach the altar or you approach these new ancestors, come with a sense of, don't have no high expectations in a sense. Come and approach it as if you're meeting someone for the first time. Even if it's grandma that you knew, that you grew up with, you can continue that relationship. But when you're meeting new ancestors, come with an open heart to get to know them, because that's literally what you're doing. Yes, they know who you are. You may not know who they are, but you guys are having an intent connection to connect for the first time. So get to know them. Get to understand what their history is like. Get to know who they are, because they're here for you, but not to work for you. And so as you build that connection, there's going to be a sense of trust that you're going to have to build with them, because ultimately you're going to come to a point where, yes, you want to ask them for something or assistance with something. And so that's going to be a sense of trust. If I have been going through, continue on with the example of a toxic relationship, if I've been going through a toxic relationship, I'm going to be very vulnerable, and I might approach them in a sense of helplessness, right? Shame. And that is such a vulnerable open wound that I have no idea what I should do. So by asking them for help, you have to surrender to that. You have to give them a certain level of trust to handle the situation. And that's not having doubt, not trying to control the situation, just allowing them to do what they need to do. And so as you're doing that, I promise you, you're going to deal with a lot of challenges, because I'm still doing that myself, having to trust them. Because I think it all essentially leads back to, do you trust yourself? Do you believe that you can do this? Because if you don't trust yourself, you're not going to trust them. And it's going to start showing up frequently. So I say all that to say, in order to strengthen your relationship with your ancestors, you have to build a sense of trust that they got you. No matter what happens, they got you. No matter even if your situation seems chaotic, spirit is always ruling in your favor. We go through situations and challenges, and even if we're talking to our ancestors about it, or we feel like, they're helping and guiding us, and situations go crazy, we cannot point the finger and blame them. We have to trust and know that they are with us at all times. And as a little tidbit, spirit ultimately believes in free will. So if you don't ask for help, you're not going to get the help. Ask and you shall receive. Or what is the little Bible verse? Closed mouths don't get fed, basically. I don't know what it is, but closed mouths don't get fed. Ask and you shall receive. You need to ask for help. If you have challenges with asking for help, I promise you, as you're going on this journey, that shit gonna come to a head. So any issues that you have internally with relationships or with yourself are gonna come to a head. Your ancestors essentially are a mirror. They are you because they have your same blood and same DNA. They may even look like you if you know what they look like, but they are a reflection of you. And as you go on this journey, a lot of shadow work is gonna be required. It's gonna be a lot of deep reflection, a lot of deep healing that you're gonna have to do. It's more than just, I want to leave this relationship and I need to go to therapy. It's also, they're holding this mirror up to me, and there's a lot of shit that I'm gonna have to face that is gonna require a lot of responsibility for me. And I think for me, that was a hard pill to swallow, because I was privileged enough to grow up and have a lifestyle in childhood where I didn't have to want for anything. I didn't have to need for anything. I didn't have to do anything for myself. And so as I've grown into a grown woman and I grow a sense of independence, I'm learning to have to take on a lot of responsibility. And being someone that is chosen to push my bloodline forward and break these patterns and these curses, it requires a lot of responsibility. So there's some times where I don't want to look at my shit, but I know I need to because I'm the person to do it. Or I know that I don't want to be in this situation, so I'm going to have to take responsibility. So in no way, shape, or form are they going to be easy on you. In no way, shape, or form are they going to coddle you. I promise you, they're going to be like, they're always 10 toes down for you, but I promise you, you finna just, I don't know, it's like, life is gonna crank up a notch. So make sure you're ready. I promise you, if you're listening to this or you're watching this, you are chosen for this for a reason. You may not remember, but I promise you, you're going to start to remember. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will find out. So that's why I said, do not take this walk with your ancestors lightly. This is not something you rush into. This is not something that you try to expedite, speed up the process. This is life. They with you for life. And this is not something you take for granted. So take your time. Please, please, please take your time. So that pretty much sums up activating the ancestral healing. And I'll just repeat it back, like give y'all like a recap so we know, right? There's a lot in this episode, but we talked about ways to deepen your connection with your ancestors through meditation, through divination tools, and through building your altars and having offerings. And when we work with them, we are setting the intention for what it is that we need assistance with. And through setting the intention, they can help you with different things that you may need help with, whether it's surface stuff like cooking, creativity, business ideas, or the deep ancestral generational healing things and components. And then as you go on that journey, you're going to strengthen that relationship with them by building that trust aspect, and just be open and take your time and be patient. So yeah, now next, this leads me into our question of this episode that somebody submitted is, hey, about adoption, can I connect with my adopted ancestors? I love this question because I think there's a misconception in the spiritual community, especially when we talk about ancestor work, that people who are adopted can't connect with their ancestors, their biological ancestors, or their adopted family can't be their ancestors. This is a complete misconception. As long as you are living and breathing and you have blood running through your veins, whether you are estranged from your family, whether you're adopted, whether you don't know them, whether you decide to go no contact, you still have access to your family. You are still somebody who has a bloodline and DNA. And if you have a family, a chosen family that you have created within yourself, or an adopted family, adopted grandma, mom, or dad are just as much as your ancestors as those that bleed the same blood. If they were there for you in human form, I promise you, when they pass on the other side, they still gonna be around there protecting you. So if you are adopted and you feel like you don't have family or an ancestors that are on the other side working for you, please know that you are loved, no matter what the situation may have been with you coming into the world, and the path in the life that you have been given. That does not deter you from connecting with your ancestors. And so I think the beautiful thing about those who have been adopted and have the desire to connect with your ancestors, that your blood relatives or your birth ancestors, is the rebirth that happens, the new opportunity to get to understand who your people are from, what is your heritage, where are you coming from, and getting to learn your culture and this ancestral information from a different lens, especially if you are someone who may have been raised around a family that has a different cultural experience than you, and you find that access to the ancestral information to get connected on a deeper level. It can be really amazing. So if you are adopted, you do have ancestors. Actually, I feel like you got double the load. If you have an adoptive family, you may have adoptive ancestors. If you have the birth family, you have birth ancestors. So I feel like it's a win-win, to be honest. The more, the freaking merrier. So don't let nobody tell you that you ain't got ancestors. But to the person that answered the question, yes, I'm looking at it again. Yes, you can connect with your adopted ancestors. Or you can also connect with your ancestors that are attached to your birth parents. It's all about what you desire to do and allowing yourself to take that journey on, and getting to get to know more about yourself. Ancestor work is about getting to the roots of you. So as you go on this experience, you're going to learn a whole lot of new things. And I'm so excited for any of you guys to start on this journey, whether you're adopted or not, whether you don't know your family or not. Maybe you're the only one left, but this is a journey of coming home to yourself, remembering who you are, and accepting that love that you abundantly desire for yourself. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Next is the segment for what's in my healing bag. Sorry, y'all. For the What's in My Healing Bag, the spiritual tool of the week is going to be a pendulum. And what I love, actually, I'm going to go get my pendulum because I'm going to do a demonstration. Give me 1 second. And if you're not on video, you might have to go to video to get this, but I'm going to try to talk y'all through it. All right, so for the spiritual tool of the week of the pendulum is basically just, how do I try to describe it? A chain or a string and a heavy object at the bottom. I suggest this for all new people that are coming into connection with their ancestors because it's cut and dry and it's easy. When we think about oracle cards and tarot cards, it can be overwhelming. There's so many different types of decks, types of cards that have different meanings, and that is another journey that you have to go on within itself if you desire to use cards or if you desire to use bones. A lot of the divination tools or ancestral tools have a lot of wisdom and knowledge attached to it, and I think that you should go on those journeys, but when you're starting out and you're looking for something clear cut and dry, get you a pendulum because it's easy and accessible. And so before you utilize your pendulum, you want to make sure you cleanse it, right? Cleanse it, set the intention that this is a pendulum to connect with my elevated ancestors, and you do it that way. And after you cleanse it, you want to program it. So for example, when you call on your elevated ancestors, before you use it, after you do your protection, you call on your elevated ancestors, you want to connect with them and receive guidance on said thing. And so by programming it, what I mean by programming is defining what yes and no is, right? So I'll give y'all an example. And if you're on the podcast, you want to see a visual, go to the video, but I also try to communicate what we're experiencing. So this is my pendulum, and I'm saying I'm setting the attention to connect with my elevated ancestors. And what I like to do is show me yes, right? And as you ask them to show you yes, they will show you what yes is. And so for me, that is spinning counterclockwise. And so, okay, you can stop, thank you. And now I'm gonna say, show me no. And no means clockwise, it's spinning clockwise. And for anyone else, it could be different directions. It's totally up to you if you want to set the intention of saying yes. If you want to say yes, please swing to the left. If you want to say no, please swing to the right. So you can invite them to answer, or you can tell them what you would like to program it as. And so just as an example, you can do a little test question. So for example, is my name Ashley? And it's going counterclockwise, so that means yes. So that is how you use a pendulum. You can ask more in-depth questions. And like I said, the reason why I suggest starting with a pendulum, because it's cut and dry. Should I be with that man? If it says no, the answer is no. It's not, I pulled this card and this means I don't know, blah, blah, blah. No, that's how, and that's a part of building trust with your ancestors, is listening to what they suggested for you and implementing and utilizing it. And despite what the outcome is, you know it's for your highest good. Pendulums will get you together real fucking quick. And I promise you, you can ask it the same question over and over again. It's going to give you the same answer. But I will say, when you're asking questions to the pendulum, be clear on what you're asking. Don't be vague. Don't be general, be specific. So if you want to ask a question, if we're using toxic relationships, for example, don't be like, should I leave this nigga? Who's that nigga? Should I leave this man, you know, whatever his name is? So you can be clear and you can be very definitive on that answer, and they can give you that answer. So that is our tool of the week. I love me a pendulum, girl. Sometimes, you know, you can carry it on you. Anything could be a pendulum for real. If you wear a necklace, if you use keys, anything, to be honest, anything that is dangling with a heavy weight at the bottom, and it can start moving. And as you continue to use it, you'll realize it don't matter what you use, especially if you set the intention for connecting with your ancestors and they have a definitive program of yes or no. You could pick up a necklace, you could pick up some keys, you could pick up a piece of string with something at the end. It's still going to be the same thing, the same yes or no every single time. So yeah, I hope you guys utilize a pendulum. I love them. But that is it for this episode. Trying to think if I have any church announcements. No, but for right now, I encourage y'all to continue to do your work. If you decide to connect with us outside of this podcast, I suggest that you join us in the Discord community where you can access resources for ancestor work. You can ask me more in-depth questions. I can provide you with resources and we can continue this conversation. And of course, if you guys have any more questions, shoot me DMs and I can answer them per episode. And I love y'all and I thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Hey girl, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go down below, leave a comment and a review. And also you can stay connected with us on Instagram at What's in My Healing Bag. If you feel like you need a little bit more help on your ancestral healing journey, you can go to asheswellnessgarden.com to look at our services, and we can continue the conversation as well on Discord. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Love you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode.